Welcome back. Welcome back to another exciting and dumbfounding and confusing and just, I don't even know how I can't think of all the words that the NFL season has. We're only in week 3, but welcome back anyway to the Fantasy Football Consistency Show. Yes, there is some consistency out there. Damn little at this point, but we're going to get there. But as always, I'm Bob Lung, Big Guy Fantasy Sports, and back from his hiatus last week, still going for the Chris Kringle look for this coming Christmas season, Mr. Ron Rigney. How you toughing it out down there? I know you're not in hurricane path, but you're always around hurricane scenarios, so you're doing okay. You're surviving. You have internet. That's a good thing. So all well, and how you been?
Yeah, we're doing good. I'm going to have a lot of limbs to clean up after this thing is all said and done. But with what the people up north of and in
Yeah.
Panhandle and the Bend are going to deal with, that's small potatoes. So thoughts and everything going out to them for sure. But we had a couple of tornado warnings that got us out of bed about 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. A little bit of wind, but we fared pretty well down here. So yeah, doing well with that. Yeah, to say the least. Again, every year, we always go into these seasons thinking we know everything about this, and we always find out we don't know jack squat about fantasy football, really. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what we're finding out now.
That's for sure. And we were talking just a little bit before we came on, and I said, people have been asking me how my teams are doing, and I say my main, obviously, we always talk about our Kings Classics. And I said I'm 3-0 in one league and 2-1 in the other. Like, oh, congratulations, you must have really drafted a good team. I said no, it's because my teams actually are healthy and are actually showing up every week and playing, which is more than we could say about 90% of, well, not 90, but a lot of players out there. Even though I lost quite a few, so I lost Devontae Smith in a number of leagues. With that, did you see the play?
I did not. I read about it, and just from the description of the injury, it did not sound great at all.
I was watching Red Zone, and that they actually, that was, so I watched it live on Red Zone. I guess that counts. But he caught the ball across the middle. Two guys was holding on to him. He wasn't making any forward progress. In fact, he was backing up, and nobody blew the whistle. I mean, and I'm sitting there going, why is the ref not blowing the whistle? And then all of a sudden, boom, he gets plowed by one of the Saints players. Just talk about defenseless player. No foul, no flags, no nothing. Guy's laying there, and I don't know how either one, some referee didn't lose his job, somebody didn't get fined. And then another player jumped on top of him and spit on him on top of it, which, we all love the Saints players and what they stand for in life. But man, it was just like, come on, refs. I mean, I get it. Sometimes you don't want, maybe they'll every once in a while blow one a little bit too early, like, oh, that guy might have broken free. But come on, you're trying to protect these players, and then that kind of crap happens. So hopefully he'll be okay. I don't see him playing this week. He was laying
No.
there for quite a long time. Same way with Trey McBride. Now that one was just they both ducked their heads at the same time and collided, and nothing you could do about that one. That was definitely a football play, and that one was. But yeah, so a lot of players going down in my 2 tight end league. I drafted Trey McBride and Sam Laporta the first 2 rounds. Tell me how that's working out for me. Yeah, I'm 0-3 and just lost the 2 tight ends.
Not a ton of consistency from the tight end spot. We'll put it that way.
No, yeah, we won't even get to that. But let's get started anyway. Let's see how things are looking. We start at the quarterback position. There is exactly one numero uno in consistency, second in total points. That is one Lamar Jackson. He is the only one who is 3 for 3, 100% consistent. The folks that were there, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Derek Carr, Geno Smith, all of them took goose eggs. So a lot of, there's quite a bit at 67%. Most of them are the top 12 to 15 in total points, which makes sense. They got to be out there to play. And then after that, it drops off. We've got and 67%, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Joe Burrow, Derek Carr, Geno Smith, Patrick Mahomes, and Daniel Jones. How about that, kids? Daniel Jones is alive and well, and this week gets to play tonight against the Cowboys. Lot down below in the 33 and zeros percents. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Ron, in the upper echelon here, certainly a few surprises. Sam Darnold is probably the biggest one. We thought he would do okay in Minnesota, but really looking strong out there.
Yep.
But who else do you like in that group? I've been grabbing for any quarterbacks on my team in the Kings Classic. In fact, I started Derek Carr last week. Didn't work out, but I still got the win. But picked up Sam Darnold as well. So I'm just trying to I'm just going to – last year, if you remember, Ron, I know you know this, I got to the finals, and I didn't have any quarterbacks, and they all got hurt. This year, I'm damn well going into the playoffs with 3 quarterbacks on this team. I don't care how many people I've got to push off to the side. I'm going to have quarterbacks going into the playoffs. But your thoughts on that upper echelon?
Well, that was the name of the game last year in the one that I won. It was Joe Flacco. It was Baker Mayfield. It was Gardner Minshew. It was finally I was able to pluck C.J. Stroud off of waivers, and that worked out pretty well. But I had to do the same thing in the Snake League this week. I had Baker Mayfield, didn't like that matchup so much. Went with Gardner Minshew, didn't work out so well. The other one I had Jared Goff, so I was able to get a win there. He did just enough. Had just enough from a couple other spots. But up towards the top, the guy I want to focus on. And I want to focus on him because over the weekend, this was the one game I was actually able to watch a little bit of from week 3, and that was Cincy or Washington at Cincy. Jaden Daniels is fun to watch, man. He makes plays. Dude's got a cannon, can tuck it and run it. That offense is going to be fun to watch. I never thought we'd be saying that about the Washington offense. But again, it just illustrates what these guys are able to do with their legs when you have them at that spot. And especially in a league like Kings Classic where you get 4-point passing touchdowns, when you can get Josh Allen, when you can get Jaden Daniels, when you get Justin Fields, when you get Lamar Jackson and those guys to run those in, it really compensates for this lack of passing yards that we've had. Mm-hmm. The one guy I want to focus on, though, that we haven't really talked about that I think is gonna get it going at some point is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow looked solid Monday night. They're 0-3. Not really looking at it from a team standpoint, but T. Higgins is back. Jamar Chase looked like the old Jamar Chase. Yoshi, I will call him Yoshi. I don't know how you say the last name. Had a touchdown the other night, too. They got Mike Gesicki in the fold. Zach Moss in the backfield. Chase Brown had a couple of nice plays. I don't know if you saw, too, an interesting nugget about that game as well. First time since 1940 that a game has not had a punt or a turnover, which I thought was a pretty amazing stat when you look at it. Yeah, that was kind of crazy to think of that. So, again, you're watching these games. You never know what might happen. Scroll down a little bit further. A guy that I want to look at for week 4, though, and a guy that I think, if you need somebody, wrote about him in my waiver wire article this week, that's Justin Fields. Justin Fields is not going to give up that job to Russell Wilson. There's a lot of talk of Russell Wilson maybe being traded to Miami. Russell Wilson's not going to be the starter. Justin Fields is. He's got some weapons on offense. They've got Indy coming up this week. Indy's in the bottom third as far as fantasy points allowed to quarterback. Again, Justin Fields can do it with his leg. I know he's 1 for 3 in clutch games. Looking for him. So if you need somebody in the short term, especially in a 2 QB league, nice matchup here against Indy this week, and probably get his second clutch game of the season.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like you said, Jaden Daniels has looked great. On the other side of that, Anthony Richardson, who a lot of people thought was going to be the guy that breaks out and be that running quarterback with an arm. And, what you just said about Jaden Daniels, but he's not. What is happening with him? I know you're an Indy fan, so I'm sure you're a little bit more in tune with this than I am, but talk about him. Is it just the offensive line not doing the job? Is he is he, sometimes they call it, happy feet, where it's just like, he just, he gives himself a second, and if not, he's taken off. What are your thoughts on Anthony Richardson? I mean, 1 for 3, but that was, week 1 when he had a nice week. He's 14th in total points, but last 2 weeks has just been bad. And some of these throws he's been throwing are not even close. Like, we're talking Deshaun Watson bad. And I know that.
Well, it's 5 interceptions over the last 2 weeks. He had 3 in week 2 against Green Bay. It's a lot of short drives, a lot of 3-and-outs too. But when you look at his completion percentage, he's completed 50% of his passes in 2 games. Week 1, where he got that clutch game, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's making these big plays." Yeah, he threw for 212 yards. He ran for 60, but he also only completed 9 of 19 passing, and that's just inaccuracy. And you're not going to argue with the athletic ability. You're not going to argue with the fact that the guy can throw it on a dime 60 yards and just flick his wrist like it's a Nerf football. But it's just they're not getting enough opportunities on offense. I don't know what time of possession looks like for them. I don't have it in front of me, but it's got to be, when you look at what they're doing offensively, it's got to be pretty low. Michael Pittman is a shell of his former self, and I think he's suffering because a lot of that inaccuracy of Anthony Richardson. Again, he went 10 for 20 last week, 17 at 34 before in week 2 against Green Bay. So again, they got Pittsburgh coming up. That's another tough matchup. I don't know that I see them getting it right at the quarterback spot for a while, but again, don't think he's going to get benched, but keep in mind who the backup is, and that's Mr. Joe Flacco. And Mr. Joe Flacco can come in and get it done. We saw him do some good things last year with Cleveland. So I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. I'm hoping he figures it out. But man, it looks rough to start the season. In week 4, it's not going to get any easier.
As a Michael Pittman owner, I'm hoping for Joe Flacco. Sorry, Anthony Richardson fans, but I have Michael Pittman on my bench in my Kings Classic. Think about that. Yeah. Three wide receivers and 3 flex, and I had to bench him because I had no faith in him scoring more points than Jacoby Myers, and I was right.
Well, I did the same thing in Scott Fishbowl, and you start a billion flexes, and I still didn't feel comfortable putting him in the lineup.
Yeah, no, it's been ugly. So, all right, well, let's move to a positive note here. Let's move to the running back position. And, we talked about this last week with Nate Markham. We've talked about this from the get-go, is holy cow, all of a sudden running backs are alive and well and living in fantasy football world. 16 perfect 3 for 3 running backs after the 3rd week. And when we get to wide receivers, I'm just gonna like, put it out there now and not, save the suspense. There's only 7. It's usually flipped. It's usually there's 7 good running backs and 16 to 20 good, perfect wide receivers, but it's flipped this year. And we have 16, and that doesn't count the 2 for 2s, which is like Pacheco and, Kenneth Walker had a clutch game his first week, hasn't played since, but yeah, it's, Kamara, Barkley, Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, James Cook, Derrick Henry, all of these guys were some of the top picks. When I say top picks, first 2-3 rounds, some of them in the first, obviously. Others have been filling in. Zach Charbonnet has filled in well with Kenneth Walker going down, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, all these guys, again, top picks, and they are performing. Teams have been going to this too high safety. So teams are like, all right, fine, we'll just run it down your throat. And guess what? It's working. Certainly, I'm very happy because I won't say on purpose, I'm not going to sit here and lie to everybody and go, yeah, I drafted 4 running backs in Kings Classic because I thought it was going to be a great idea. I didn't, but they fell to me and I got them. And it was guys like Brian Robinson, J.K. Dobbins, those kind of players that I got in, rounds 8 through 12 or bought fairly cheap on the auction. And those are the teams that are kicking ass for me because those 4 running backs, in addition to the other guys I have, which was like, Kamara, Derrick Henry, those kind of folks. So, just those running back cores just basically carrying my team with a few good receivers like Chase and those. But, it's heading in that direction. And now you got guys like Singletary and Chuba Hubbard and Zach Moss and, Connor, Pollard, all these guys 2 for 3. So a lot of running backs putting up some very good numbers through the first 3 weeks. Ron, any of these on your teams, are they doing well for you as well? I know David Montgomery is always our favorite. And, I can't tell you how excited I am I drafted him so many times. And he is doing exactly what he did last year, which is why I was so confused when every draft there he was sitting, 6th, 7th round as my RB2 after I loaded up on receivers. And I'm sure you did too. And he's paying off just like we thought he would.
And I have him in one of my dynasty leagues. I don't have as many shares of him as I wish I did, but yeah, I have him and Kenneth Walker, and he's carried me at the running back spot the last couple of weeks.
Mhm.
Again, he's sharing that backfield with Jahmyr Gibbs, but he's the guy on first and second down that they want to get it to and they want to establish that run with, and he's the guy that's getting all the touchdowns as well.
Yeah, the end zone is the key, right?
And looking at the Kings Classic like we always do, the one I got the win in last week, it was Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss combined for about 46 points for me. So again, a couple of those guys in that top. Always love to talk about the champagne of running backs, Mr. Zach Charbonnet. Getting in the end zone for you over Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's a guy I got a couple of places, and he was good first week out. Hopefully he'll come back. I don't know what his status is right now, but a couple of surprises here. But one of the things I think is intriguing, you've got two guys in that Washington backfield that are perfect consistency, Mr. Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, who we kind of left for dead in the offseason, made an appearance and looked really solid the other night in that game.
He got hurt and he won't be playing this week, but
right.
Yeah, no, he's looked well as and there's a lot of people who said Eckler wasn't done yet, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a lot of faith in that because I kind of felt better about Brian Robinson than I did Eckler.
Right.
But yeah, like you said, with that team, the offense is just clicking at all cylinders. Even Terry McLaurin's kicking it in again. So good stuff. Let's talk about some of the guys who are not doing as well at the running back position. Folks like Najee Harris, 1 for 3. Joe Mixon, 1 for 2, got hurt. Who else was I looking at? And I'm like, no, I lost. DeAndre Swift hasn't looked good.
Killing me.
Yeah, and I didn't get a lot of shares of him. There was a lot of love for Chase Brown in the offseason. That hasn't really come to fruition yet, but give it time. Zamir White 0 for 3. Tampa Bay, and I just went brain dead. Rashad White. As I said, no, it was the other White. Rashad White. So, Bucky Irving is, slowly moving into, sharing now, maybe getting more carries. I do have Rashad White in a few leagues, not a ton, but enough that I'm like, I didn't draft Bucky Irving because I didn't think that, my love for, rookies, but of these guys that are down there struggling, do you see any of them turn around? Like, I thought this was going to be a Zamir White week in week 3 because they were playing Carolina, and he sucked again. And I'm like, so, I've kind of given up on any hope there. Alexander Madison's actually looked better than him. He's 2 for 3, 26 in total points. But do you see anybody maybe from that lower level that might turn it around as as the year goes on to get kind of claw their way back into some kind of decency, reasonableness, whatever you want to call it, averageness? I just don't. Yeah, just don't think. Gus Edwards 0 for 3. A lot of people thought he was going to they were going to share 50-50 there. There's just a lot of stuff there. Now, luckily, like I said, I just kind of took a shot at J.K. Dobbins with a lot of picks because, nobody seemed to want him. Yeah. Now he's got a tough matchup this week against Kansas City. So, and there's Justin Herbert's going to be on the bench or, is injured. So I'm actually probably going to bench J.K. Dobbins in my Kings Classic. Put in some other players this week just because I don't have I may get burned by that, but Kansas City has really been tough against the run this year. And with no real quarterback to take the pressure, I just feel like he's not going to go anywhere in that game. But any thoughts from you on the lower folks? Any turnarounds you see?
It's tough to predict any turnarounds. I got to believe those Steelers running backs because Jalen Warren's another one that has done absolutely squat as well. And it's hard for me to believe that they're not going to figure out how to run the football with him and Najee Harris because that's just kind of what Pittsburgh does. One thing I want to point out, I don't know necessarily if it's a positive or negative. I think it depends on if you can get these guys. A couple of them that I'm looking at here, Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, that Denver backfield, those guys are averaging 2.2 yards a carry. They have not been able to get it going. And I wrote about in my waiver wire article this week, wrote about Audric Estime.
Mm-hmm.
Late round pick out of Notre Dame. Dude had an awesome last season there at Notre Dame. I think he had 1,300 yards, 18 scores. Doesn't catch the ball a lot, but a big back, fits their scheme. And a guy that, if you watch his college film, not super fast, not going to be on a burner at the combine, but reads blocks well, just a smart football player. He's going to be back off the IR coming up, I think, week 6. He's a guy that if you need somebody and you got an open bench spot, I would be shocked. And I've said this ever since the offseason when he went to Denver, that I'd be shocked if he doesn't win that job with those guys being able to do nothing.
Right.
Another backfield, you mentioned DeAndre Swift. I'm hoping he gets it going because I've got him as my RB2 in one spot. But Rashawn Johnson is another guy that if he's out there, you might want to grab. Got 8-9 carries last week and had 30 yards, nothing to get too excited about. But I believe he's the best pure runner in that backfield. I was a DeAndre Swift fan this season just because I thought they gave him a decent sized contract. They're going to get him the ball quite a bit. It just hasn't panned out. He's not done a whole hell of a lot with the football, and they're at the bottom of they're towards the bottom of team rushing yards as well. So a couple of guys that I think they're owned in less than, I know Audric Estime is owned in less than 1% of all ESPN leagues. I think Johnson is less than 2%, something like that. So that's a couple of places you might look. May not be guys that'll pay off dividends right now, but if you're kind of looking forward to the bye weeks and you're looking forward, because like you said off air, Bob, those bye weeks starting week 5, you might want to start planning ahead for that. But if those guys are practically free by now, and you don't want to be late jumping on being able to add those, especially in a deeper league.
Yeah, no, if you got any bench spots, even if it's close, like you said, picking up some of these folks, especially if you're 3-0, 2-1, like you've got a good team. I can't tell you how important depth is, folks. And anytime I talk to folks, they're like, hey, my team's doing well, and I feel like I've got it made. And I go, you don't have it made. Injuries will come. You need to be prepared. Go get depth. If you've got a really good player, I was telling the lady at one of the events I was at, and she had Tyreek Hill. And I said, you know what, go trade Tyreek Hill for two very good wide receivers. So find a team that's got a lot of depth and go trade him, because they may want him for the, when Tua comes back or they get a real quarterback in there, but get that depth, before it's too late, because if Tyreek keeps doing nothing because their quarterback stinks, you've lost a lot of value there. So, don't never rest on your laurels. I don't care how good your team is, because things can happen real quick. All right, let's move to the wide receiver position. As I mentioned, only 7 perfect 3 for 3s. One of them is Devontae Smith, who is not going to be playing this week, probably with a concussion. But the rest of them, all, Malik Neighbors, top of the list. Rashida Rice, top of the list. Could have got both of these guys fairly, not late, but mid rounds. Some people were higher on Malik Neighbors than others, and I get it. I wasn't one of them. Me and my rookies. But Chris Godwin, definitely have a lot of him, and he's doing well. Justin Jefferson's there. Nico Collins, like I said, Devontae Smith. Another one that may be the biggest surprise is Buffalo's Khalil Shakir, not Keon Coleman, not Dalton Kincaid. He's not even in the tight end spot that good. Shakir is 15th in total points. Here's the thing. He is flying under the radar, folks. He's getting that 10 to 12 a week. So if you can see somebody out there, may not be starting them, especially if you're in a shallow league, 10, 12 teamers, you might be able to sneak him in a trade or go see if he I doubt if he's hanging on the waiver wire, but especially with all the injuries. But again, definitely take a look and see where he's at in your league. He may be worth going after. A lot of 1 week wonders. We had, of course, our Juwan Jennings, busting out with the big week. Gotta love that one. Of course, I didn't have him anywhere, and I didn't even pick him up because I figured he would probably be a 1 week wonder. Hope he's not. We'll see. 2 for 3, DK Metcalf, Jaden Reed, Stephon Diggs, 11th in total points. That has been paying off for me certainly quite a bit. Got him, I won't say cheap, but cheaper than he would normally go as a top receiver. I got him as sometimes my wide receiver 2 for sure, sometimes 3. Definitely paying off in Houston right now. Marvin Harrison has kicked it back in. Sun God is up there. Devontae Adams is up there. He's I'm finally watching the receiver show. I didn't get a chance to see that. And I just sit there and I just feel bad for Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
last year. And I know he's going through the same crap now. You know, you can just see when he just holds his head down, like, oh my God, another pass over my head or short, or, you know, it's like, I hope at some point he gets traded to the Jets mid-season so he can play with, you know, Garrett Wilson on one side and Aaron Rodgers in there, but we'll see what happens. You know, and I'm a Raiders fan, so I'm all for it. But you know, who are some surprises, Ron, to you that, you know, maybe higher than expected or not as high where he's at right now? I see a few I could mention. I kind of went through the list, but didn't really get into it. Who are some guys in there that, you know, good and bad, that, you know, you're just kind of keeping an eye on?
Well, the one that jumps out to me, and I got to give him some props here, just because he was the reason that I got my first win in Kings Classic, and that's Juwan Jennings, career 46.5 points. We'll take that all day
You
long.
started
So
it.
I did, and I had
Good
to. I had
man.
no
All
choice.
right.
I plucked him off waivers late in the week. Could not believe in a league like Kings Classic he was still out there. The other league
Yeah.
he was not available, but this one he was. I jumped on it. Didn't even cost me any fab, and it
Oh,
ended
nice.
up being one of those things that worked out for me. Not too often has that happened this year, so we'll take that all day long. Alan Lazard there 2 for 3. It was Alan Lazard kind of left for dead last year, so that just kind of proves, you know, that Aaron Rodgers rapport that he's got there. But a lot of those guys that are 2 for 3, guys that we weren't really too surprised about. Going down a little bit further, of course, you mentioned Tyreek Hill. It's easy to see why he's probably going to continue to not add clutch games. I read a thing today where they were considering Ryan Tannehill, bringing him back. I read a thing where they were, and that actually could be a good thing. Could be a good thing.
That would make a lot.
And then, of course, I said Russell Wilson earlier. They've been linked to him. Calvin Ridley's kind of a surprise. That whole Jacksonville offense is kind of shocking to me. Trevor Lawrence averaging 186 yards a game through the air and not really turning it over, just not completing passes. And Evan Ingram owners kind of know that as well. But there's not really, I mean, there's a few as you go down here a little bit further that are a little surprising. I don't know if this is a huge shocker, but I got DeAndre Hopkins in one of my Kings Classic leagues. I expected a little more out of him. I know he's kind of been injured a little bit, but other than that, I mean, nobody that you really hadn't already mentioned is too much of a shock.
Yeah, right. Well, like I said, Michael Pittman at, you know, 71st in points. Oh, for
Maybe
3.
I'm trying to block him out of my head. Maybe I'm just
I
not trying
know,
to
I
think of
hear
that.
you, man, but he just jumps up and he literally, the name reached out and smacked me across the head, like, what, you know. But yeah, there's, you know, certainly not much worse than that for somebody that's played every week. You know, we certainly have had injuries, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, you know, those kind of folks can't fault that issue. But yeah, I mean, right now, you just got to put the best people out there. You know, the one thing that, you know, for us that have been playing a long time, don't overcoach. You know, do not, you know, consistency is there for a reason. You put in your best players because it evens out. When you start taking a guy out and then they have a big week and you're like, damn, I should have put him in, and then you put him in and they have a bad week, then all of a sudden, that even if they do have consistency, you may not have played it right and you didn't even benefit from the consistency. So really, really think about, before you bench a Patrick Mahomes for a Sam Darnold, or, you know, really think about the fact, like, if you go to work or you're talking with your friends the next week and you say you lost because you started Sam Darnold over Patrick Mahomes, if you can't take the heat, don't do it. Now, I get it. If you pull it off and Sam Darnold throws 4 touchdowns like he did a week ago and Mahomes only has 15 points, fine. But let's be honest, that's what the consistency model is about. More often than not, Patrick Mahomes will be fine and Sam Darnold will be okay. Don't overthink this. Trust me, it's somebody that has done this in the past. So let's move on to the ever famous tight end position. We have 0 3-for-3s. We do have some 2-for-2s. George Kittle and Brenton Strange. If you don't know who Brenton Strange is, that means you didn't have Evan Ingram on your team, because that's who's been replacing him, and he's earned 2 straight clutch games, and I did not pick up him as his replacement. So I kicked myself for that. 2 for 3s, Brock Bowers, Gesicki, Trey McBride, who's now hurt, out probably with a concussion for this week. Zach Ertz, Kyle Pitts, Jake Ferguson, 1 for 2. So that was all the 2 for 3s. Ferguson had a nice comeback game this past week. Should have another good one tonight against the Giants. So I got him back in all my lineups. Shoemaker did a nice job filling in, earned a clutch game if you backed him up with him. Of course, Dallas Goedert had the massive game, and now he's first in total points because he scored all of them in 1 week, or at least most of them. So, if you have Dallas Goedert and somebody makes you an offer and it's a good offer, take it, please. Of course, Isaiah likely hasn't done anything since week 1, even though, talking about didn't start him 2 weeks, and now I'm pretty much, I want to drop him, but I know if I drop him, somebody will scoop him up because he'll score another 30 points. The rest of them are 1 for 3s as usual. The tight end position is a complete disaster. Sam Laporta, 1 for 3. Travis Kelce's 0 for 3. Dalton Schultz is 0 for 3. It's just brutally awful. I mean, Ron, we've had these discussions and we've said this is really bad, and I don't think it can get any worse. What is going on? What is happening, man?
Just when we thought it couldn't become any more of a disaster, we always let out the collective groan every week for the last 3-4 years when we talk about tight ends, and here we are with guys like Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews down around 21st in total points, 30th in total points, and then you got somebody like, and then you got Brenton Strange 2 for 2 there at the top with 2 clutch games. You can't make this stuff up. One of the things that's at the top, though, that it's cool to see, it's kind of cool to see Kyle Pitts kind of starting to come around. I mean, I know he's not up there towards the top yet, but he's in the top 10 in total points. He's got a couple of clutch games there, 2 for 3. But it's just, it's almost like if you don't get a touchdown out of your tight end, you're not going to get that production week to week. And we haven't seen that in a while because we've had guys like Travis Kelce, like Mark Andrews, that get those 8 for 60 games or those 5 for 50 games. And I got George Kittle in a couple places, of course. Have him, and he gets hurt. He was awesome in the 2 games he's played, but got to find those backups, and those backups aren't out there.
Right. As you mentioned, or as I mentioned, I've been watching the Receiver show, and I just love George Kittle.
Yeah, he's awesome.
After watching that show, I love him even more. But yeah, he's just, he plays balls to the walls for every play. God bless him for it. But man, dude, go 80%, man. Go 80% and play a whole season for one of us. Can you please? It's like you said, I love his intensity and his, everything about him. But man, dude, you're just killing yourself and you're killing us fantasy owners on top of it. But anyway, it's a mess. All I can tell anybody out there is just keep getting healthy bodies. If one of these guys go down, pick up the backup like I should have for Brenton Strange, and I didn't. I just went and got, whoever. Be careful again with the 1 week wonders like Dallas Goedert, Cole Kmet. Right now they are both 1 for 3 and they're first and third in total points. If that doesn't tell you how bad their tight end position is, that if you have one good game, and in 4th place is Isaiah Likely. So think about that. All 3 of those guys had one big game where they scored more than 20 points, and they are 1st, 3rd, and 4th in total points, but they're 1 for 3. Again, we'll say it 100 million times. Watch that kind of stuff and stay away from it. If you can get a good trade for one of those guys, do it. We don't know if they're going to come back. Goddard has potential just because Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown is down.
Right.
He might have a couple more games, but we don't know if Cole Kmet will ever have that kind of game again. Keenan Allen's coming back this week. So now you're going to have him, Adunze, and DJ Moore on the field. We don't know if Cole Kmet will see those kind of numbers again. So, again, if you have him, and somebody offers you a trade, and you can improve your depth in your team, get 2 players or 2 better players, by all means do it. Use that inconsistency to your advantage to get some consistent players. Go get an Evan Ingram or somebody's, or a Trey McBride or somebody who might miss this week but come back and be fine. So Ron, any more thoughts outside of throwing up on the floor in regards to the tight end position? Is there anybody?
No, just you got to pray for that health, man. You got to pray for that health because there's nobody to add.
I think the one that I don't know about Kelsey. I'm going to leave that one alone. But the Mark Andrews one, I think, is the one that really dumbfounds me more than even Kelsey.
Yeah,
because this guy was just a staple in this offense. There's been no changes since last year. It's not like they're using Isaiah Likely more outside of week 1. It'd be one thing if okay, Isaiah Likely's getting 5 for 50 every week, and Andrews is just, the old guy, holding up the row. But it's not. And, Baltimore is also not doing well. Their defense is not holding up. Derrick Henry's great and looked great this past week. And they beat the Cowboys, but then again, so did the Saints. They killed them. We'll see what happens tonight. But I just feel like, man, I'm glad I didn't invest in any Mark Andrews. Like I said, I was pretty much Evan Ingram or Kyle Pitts. That was my 2 guys. Njoku, if those 2 weren't available.
Yeah, I got a lot of Njoku.
2 out of the 3 are hurt.
Well, just looking at Andrews here, I've only watched him play just that Thursday night game where Isaiah Likely had the coming out party, but he's only been targeted 8 times over 3 weeks, including 2 times last week, 2 for 14, and then he got 1 target in that week 1 game. So, like I said, I haven't watched him a lot, so I don't know if it's game flow. I don't know if they other teams are taking him out of the equation. I don't know if he's not fully healthy. It could be a number of things. I don't know, but yeah, it's odd to only see him targeted twice last week, and then only once in week 1.
Yeah, no, it's really surprising. I don't know if there's a huge incentive contract where if he gets so many targets or catches this year, they have to pay him like $2 million, and they're trying not to do it. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. But
maybe they're trying to pull what the Milwaukee Brewers did the other night. They let a guy go when he was 4 plate appearances shy of earning a $200,000 bonus, and they sent him out. So
I know Pittsburgh. Well, Pittsburgh, was it Pittsburgh or it was Milwaukee?
Yeah, Pittsburgh. It was Pittsburgh. I said the Brewers was Pittsburgh. Yeah,
I remember seeing the Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah, Rowdy Tellez.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was So let's hope not. But all right. So Ron, tell everybody. Well, first off, I assume you have a card of the week for us.
Well, I wasn't here last week, so I'm doing 2 real quick, and I'm doing this one here. Pretty little Jerry, I'm sorry. We're going to go with a little Derek Thomas here. One of the great defensive ends of all time, holds a single game record with 7 sacks in 1 game. And it tells you how old this card is right here. He's sacking Boomer Esiason in this card for Cincinnati. So that puts a little age on that thing for us. And then went with this pretty little bright, shiny Jerry Rice card because Jawan Jennings gave me a big win this week. So nice little Pacific insert card there from Jerry Rice. So I gave you 2 this week. And I didn't have any ants crawl out of them this week either. So we got that going for us as well. That's always a positive. Always a positive. So check out the waiver wire article this week, BigGuyFantasySports.com. Article got released a little late this week, so I wanted to give you some guys that maybe you can add down the road. Maybe it'll be a little beneficial in a few weeks, maybe not necessarily this week. I gave you a nice combination of those, so go check that out. It'll be myself and Mr. Lung, not only with the prop bets this week, but also with the consistently cashing. So the handsome factor of the podcast is going to drop a little bit. That's okay. We're still going to collect the clutch game.
Go way up.
We're going to collect the clutch game for you. We're going to get on the winning track here with those. So I'm looking forward to sitting in on those prop bets with you. We'll see if we can win a little bit of holiday cash and cash on those DFS lineups. And then, of course, on the X machine at Ron Rigney. So check out all the great stuff over at BigGuyFantasySports.com.
He said it all. I'm Bob Lung with Big Guy Fantasy Sports on the Twitter machine at Bob_Lung. And like Ron said, you're going to get a lot of us this week, so get out the alcohol. You're going to need it. We look much better if you have 4 or 5 shots. I'm going to tell you right now. But anyway, everybody take care. Keep an eye on all those podcasts this week. God bless. We'll see you soon.